Today we are diving into an often overlooked effect in DaVinci Resolve that is called the grid. Now you might be thinking, what could it possibly be good for besides straightening the horizon? Well, actually, this little effect has a couple tricks up its sleeve. And in this video I will be showing 5 creative ways to use the grid effect plus a little retro style bonus at the end of the video. Feel free to use the chapters down below, and let's start with option number 1. First up, let's start with the basics. We are gonna create a simple animated grid background that is great for showcasing B-roll or infographics. To use the grid effect, we'll need to open the Effects tab. Here in the toolbox, first open the Effects section, drag and drop for the adjustment clip onto the timeline. Next, move to the Open Effects, and here scroll down a bit. And under Resolve FX Generate, you'll see grid. That's the effect we want. Drag and drop the grid onto adjustment clip, and you'll see that our grid has appeared here, and all the further customizations will be made in the Inspector tab right here on the right, under Effects, Open Effects tab. First we want all the grid lines to be exactly the same width, and here we have these major lines that we can simply disable by moving this slider right here down to 0. Now we can adjust the number of cells. Let's make it 10 by 20. Now let's decrease the opacity of our lines by moving to Global Blend and lowering it down. Now to add movement, we'll use the transform effect. By the way, you can search for effects right here. Here we have transform, drag and drop. And now in the same tab, we can control our transform effect. Let's say we want our grid to slowly move vertically. To do that, I'll move to the beginning of the clip. In the transform effect settings, I'll make sure to click this diamond right here next to position Y. After that, I'll move to the end of the clip. Oops, make sure it's selected, and then in transform. Once again, under position Y, I'll change it to something like 0.15. And this keyframe was created automatically, so now we have the animation. Of course, you can make it faster or slower by changing this parameter. You can see that our grid is slowly moving out of the frame, but we'll fix it right now. So to make sure that the grid continues as it scrolls up, we'll move to Advanced Options, Edge Behavior, Wrap Around. And now you can see that we have an infinite grid. It still looks a bit too flat, so we'll make it a bit more interesting by adding some lens distortion. Once again, in the effect search for distortion, drag and drop onto the clip, and now we'll need to adjust the distortion parameter up to 1. And now it looks a bit more interesting. Now that we have a basic background, let's take it up a notch. By combining the grid effect with other effects in DaVinci Resolve, we can create custom, advanced background animations. This way we can get a truly unique look for our videos. To make this background blend in a little better, I love to add some vignette. Here I want to adjust its parameters in a way that these lines up here and on top do disappear, decrease the vignette opacity a bit. Yeah, something like that. So it's without vignette and with vignette applied. Alternatively, if I have something displayed in the middle, instead of vignettes, I'm going for the abstraction effect. I just drop it onto an adjustment clip and leave it as it is. So you can see that we have a bit darkened lines towards the center of the frame. And basically most of the lines get less distracting. Alternatively, you can move the adjustment clip up, and here from the generators section, you can drag and drop the noise gradient and adjust its parameters. Basically, you can stack as many different effects and underlays as you'd like. For example, I really like this waviness stuff. So here, under Open Effects, in Resolve FX Warp, add waviness. This one is vertical. Add one more. Set this one to horizontal. Looks way too psychedelic, so let's remove the transform. And let's minimize the amount of lines. Probably let's decrease the strength of the waviness down to 5. And probably we can decrease the speed as well. Something like this. And we can transform these grid lines into something that looks completely different. So, for example, let's grab scan lines. Scan lines, yep, from Open Effects. Change line frequency to something like this. Now I want these horizontal lines out of the way. I'll return to grids, and here horizontal line width will be set to 0. So we only have our vertical lines. We can make them a bit more interesting by adding prism blur. And we have something very weird, but truly unique. Now I want to show you a niche but cool way to use grid effect in DaVinci Resolve. I'm talking about creating mesmerizing, kaleidoscope-like effects, perfect for relaxation or meditation videos. If you're familiar with Andal Focus Music, they use somewhat similar minimalistic patterns in their app. By the way, I really recommend checking Andal out. Even though it's a subscription-based service, they do offer a generous free tier without any annoying limitations. I'll leave the link in the description down below. Not sponsored, I just found that app recently after getting tired of Focus at Will, and I'm really happy with Andal. Let's duplicate the adjustment clip we made at the beginning of this tutorial. Here I will remove the lens distortion, and now I want to add something like dent. Adjust its size. And basically, as we have the animation made in transform, we already can see some movement. We can adjust the side even more. We can play around with different types of dent to change the structure. Of course, you can also change the animation inside transform, and this will influence the pattern as well. Alternatively, you can use the effect called mirrors. And here, instead of individual, switch to either rosettes or kaleidoscope. Each of them will introduce specific, unique animation. Here I think we should align it better. Generally, we have a ton of possibilities to create different patterns like this, because we can change the settings of the grid, change our transform animations, change the type of mirrors we use, or change back to something like the dent effect, and this way we can get almost an infinite amount of combinations. Enough backgrounds. If you switch to DaVinci from Premiere Pro or use any photo editing software, you might miss having guides. Honestly, I have no idea why Blackmagic Design haven't added this feature to DaVinci Resolve, but we can use the grid effect as an alternative. So I've added a clip with this cute kitten and made a cut, changed the zoom level of the second part of the clip. I let it play and see if you can spot an issue here. when the cut happens, you can see that the head position certainly shifts away. So in between his eyes was here, and now it's here. While it's not that critical, this abrupt jump cut definitely messes up with the viewer's brain. And if you want to make things as smooth as possible, you want the object of focus to be at exactly the same place on the screen before the cut and after the cut. In our case, that's cat's eyes. An annoying inconvenience in DaVinci is that without guides, it's not that easy to align the clips. So let's fix that. Grab an adjustment clip. After that, drag our beloved grid effect. Here I want to set number of cells to 2, major line spacing to 0, horizontal line width and vertical line width to absolute minimum. And I want to increase zoom to the maximum available level, that is 4. This way, when we move our lines, no matter how we move them, the line will be covering the entire frame. So let's fix the situation with our kitten. I'm at the last frame of the first part of the clip. Now I move to the next frame, and here I will align the anchor point in a way that it matches the clip before the cut. Here's before, here's after. You don't have to recreate this effect for every project you have. You can simply open the power bins. If you don't see them here, click these 3 dots, select Show Power Bins, and then you can simply drag and drop the adjustment clip we've created into the power bin. Triple click the name, rename it to something like Guides, and reuse them in any future project. The only downside I see is that you have to go to the Adjustment Clip, Effects tab, Open Effects tab, and here you will need to use this sliders pan and tilt to move the guidelines. However, we can make our lives a bit easier. I will duplicate the adjustment clip we've just made. Go to Effects, Grid Controls. I will reset them and tilt. Now right-click the clip, select New Compound Clip, hit Create. Right-click again, select Render in Place. MP4 H.264 is fine, hit Render, select the location, click Open, wait for the render to complete. In the inspector, change Composite Mode to Screen. And this way, we can use our transform controls to easily move the grid lines, the guidelines, around our frame. For those of you working with both horizontal and vertical videos, the next tip might be a game changer. Sometimes you want to use the standard 16:9 clip in vertical short form content, and that means you'll have to cut the excessive parts of the video. If you've shot the footage with this cut in mind, keeping your subject centered all the time, then you'll simply will have to create a vertical timeline, select Scale Full Frame with Crop option, drag all your clips and you're done. But if you have a bunch of clips and your subject is all over the place, it is not very comfortable to work with clips like that in a vertical timeline. So now I'll show you how to preview vertical 9:16 clips in a standard 16:9 timeline using grids. This way you can see both the overflow and the edges of your future vertical clip. If you have the vertical clip available, you can just drag it onto the timeline, and you can use these clips for creating the guidelines. Alternatively, if you don't have the vertical clip, right-click in the media pool, select New Fusion Composition, leave the settings as default, drag it onto the timeline, right-click, open in Fusion page. Here, drag this background node into the node tree. Change its color to something light. Connect the output of the background node to our media out. Next, here in Effects tab, search for Resize. Drag and drop the Resize onto this arrow, so it connects automatically. Now we can change this to the resolution of our vertical clip, which is 1080 by 1920. And that's it, we can return to the edit page. As you can see, it's basically the same thing. Let's use the adjustment clip, grid effect, decrease the row cells and column cells to 1, major line spacing to 0. Now we can use width to align the edges. Of course, we can make the lines thinner and remove horizontal lines completely if we don't need that. And so now we can clearly see the edges of our future vertical clip. Let's drag the horizontal one, the standard one, and this way we can quickly adjust our clip's position. And afterwards we can simply copy-paste these clips onto the vertical timeline. If these lines are not clearly visible, you can of course go back to the grid controls, change color to something with more contrast to your image, and increase the width. And of course you can save this adjustment clip to the Power Bin as well. And now a little bonus. If you're a fan of this nostalgic retrowave aesthetic, you're gonna love this. I'll show you how to create a beautiful animated retrowave grid right on the edit page, similar to the one from Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon cover. I've added our reference image to the timeline. Let's drop in the adjustment clip, add our grid effect. I want the cells to be almost rectangle, so I'll change that to 2020. Line color, I will pick the one that we have here. Now I'll move this image away. Major line spacing set to 0. I'll add another adjustment clip and apply the transform effect to it. We want to animate the vertical position. Set a keyframe at the beginning of the clip. I'll set it to 0.3. And at the end of the clip, I will set it to 0. In the advanced options, edge behavior, wraparound. One more adjustment clip. You can rename each adjustment clip so you don't forget what's happening there right here in the File tab. This one was movement. This is the grid. And the next one will be position. I'll add a transform effect to it as well. Here we can see that the grid is bent forwards and so the shape is closer to the square than we have here. And the grid is much larger. So the movement is correct and the shape is similar to what we have on the reference. But I don't want it to go that far. So another adjustment clip. This one will be for crop. Like this. Now I want to add a static horizontal line, so these smaller lines don't appear out of nowhere. To do that, I'll use the solid color, which we can find under the generators tab. I'll need our image one more time. And in the settings, I'll crop it from top and the bottom. push it down a bit. Probably change its color to something lighter, like this. It does look okay, but it doesn't appear to have that neon glow. That will add with another adjustment clip. Let's call it neon. And to apply a bit of neon look, we'll use the halation effect. We'll lower the threshold, scroll down, and in the secondary glow, we'll increase the strength. It looks great already, but we can go further and create the reflection on top. First, let's add an adjustment clip, call it move down. Lower the position down, so we have space for the reflection. Grab another adjustment clip, add mirrors node, rename it to mirror. In the effects tab, we can choose the angle for the reflection. Minus 90 degrees will do the trick. And there we have it. I think we can push this a bit down to place some text, probably, using a text plus node and some font. This one is free, by the way. I'll link it in the description down below. Change its color. We have the neon applied to everything underneath it, but not to our text, so we can move this adjustment clip up. And now we have the same halation effect applied both to the grid and the text. And that's it. If this video was useful, hit the like button, and if you want to learn how to never retract those annoying magic masks again, watch this video next.